away working on writing, working on getting all my publishing business stuff set up for 2020, and just been busy. So I wasn't going to do it, but here I am because I just watched a civil conversation with Jon, which was a different Jon. But now we're going to have a civil conversation with this Jon because it's better. So you guys are probably wondering what I've been up to over the last couple weeks. I have not been streaming whatsoever. And this is kind of an odd time for me to stream. Hit the like button, subscribe button, all those things. I think are we on Twitter? There we are. We're on Periscope. We've got some people on Periscope watching. Hello, people on Periscope. Facebook Live is still not working with my restream thing. Let me try to set this up real quick. Madison! Hello, my favorite person who watches these things. How are you? Hey, Lorenzo, how are you? I don't know why my Facebook Live is not working on this. Let me see if I have to reconnect Facebook or something. I'm gonna reconnect Facebook and try to get this going. Add channel, Facebook Live, connect Facebook. Sometimes Facebook gets finicky and you have to unconnect things and reconnect things and see if it'll go. And let's see. Offline says it's offline. Periscope says it's online. YouTube says it's online. Why is Facebook still offline? It sucks. What can you do? Are we back? Is it working now? Maybe it'll work on the next stream. Whatever. I got an email. Oh, Jon Delarose just got Flying Sparks Kickstarter kit, comic book poster t-shirt. Love all of them. Great job. Thank you. Cool. Yeah, people are getting Flying Sparks in. Finally, it's been a process. For those who don't know the whole situation of things, I had a publisher for the last couple of volumes, and because of their workload and sort of an inability for them to get things formatted and ready for print by the time I needed, I went and decided to research how to do that myself and got the books all formatted and printed myself. And so Flying Sparks ended up with Doug TenNapel and Tim Lim's printer for their books. You guys probably know them and are familiar with them. And they did a great job. So I'm very happy with that. The printer got the books done a couple weeks later than I wanted, in addition to that. And then my fulfillment company, who I'm going to blame, if you're watching this fulfillment company, shame on you. They apparently ordered the wrong packing supplies. And so they had to wait till after Christmas to get it from Amazon and all that. And got them out pretty quickly once they had those packing supplies in. So ended up a little later than I wanted to be, but it all worked out in the end. And now we have our whole new chain in place to where we can just crank these out all the time. New comics, whenever we feel like putting them out. And we're going to put them out often. So we're going to have a great time with comics in 2020. And this is just the beginning of the process. So that's that. The books are out. Everybody says they're enjoying it. I don't know. Have you guys read it? Anybody in the chat read the Flying Sparks Volume 3 yet? I'd be interested to know what you thought. I think that somebody told me earlier that there's a big payoff for the way that the storyline's gone so far. And I agree with that. I set it up so that, this is a 5-act book, basically, of 5 books. And this third one's really the, what is it? They call it the first, when you do a 5-act structure, it's introduction, which is definitely the first book's introduction, rising action, complication. So we're at complication right now, right? Then falling action, which will be book 4, then denouement, which will be book 5. I don't know that it goes exactly like that because book 4 is maybe the action in book 4 and book 5 go out of control, and denouement's probably going to be like the last 10 pages of book 5 maybe. But it's I think it's all picked up really good, and I'm very pleased with where it's gone. And I hope you guys are excited for volume 4 for those who have read the end of this one. It's the comedy intermezzo. There we go. The other thing that I've got going is I've been kind of teasing that I've been wanting to re-release my James Gentry novellas. Now, what happened? Hey, Hut, can you come on the stream and talk to me? I would like to talk to you. And I always try to get you on my stream, but you're always at work, and I'm streaming kind of late today. But that'd be a lot of fun. Hey, there's one. Just got Flying Sparks Volume 3 in the mail. That makes me happy. Cool. I'm glad. I hope you enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed making it. So I've been teasing. Talk with me. That'd be fun. And I've been teasing about the Steam Night thing for a while. I put these out as novellas, and what the deal is. Let me. I've got a new short link here to get to my Von Monocle series. Oh, I got a new rating. Let's see if somebody liked it. Let's hope they didn't hate it. Fun way steampunk adventure. Light, fast-paced, fun way steampunk adventure. Good. Thank you, Bill S., whoever you are. Cool. Okay. What was I going to do? Okay, so here's my steampunk series. We've got 4 books in the series. As you see, these are full-length novels each, and it's a continuing story that kind of builds and has its little, different rises and falls in there. And what happened was some people who were reading the series were like, I really like your character James from the series. And they said, I'd like you to write something from his perspective so we can get to know him a little better. And they said this after book 1. And so before I put out book 2, I wrote a novella of James, and it was called Night Training. It's about 20,000 words, very short, very easy to read. And I sent that out to Patreon subscribers. I put it up online. I actually put it up as a teaser kind of before book 2 came out. So I did book 1 in 2017, and then summer 2018 I dropped Night Training. The next month I dropped Blood of Giants. The next month I dropped The Fight for Rosalindia, so I could have this like wave of steampunk come in. And Night Training actually went to #1 bestseller. It was my first #1 bestseller on Amazon. So it really made a huge splash, and everybody loved it. And so I wrote a couple more follow-up novellas, which were Guard Training and Spy Training. And I put them in their own series, and they were really short, and they were too short really to print. So I didn't ever put them into print. I put them in their own series, so people were kind of confused as to that. And so this time I'm putting all 3 of those into the series, just tacking it on it, book number 5, so people can kind of get that background depth that adds to the storyline, because that is what I think is important to read in terms of doing this. So it'll be a part of the series. All 3 novellas are now in here. All 3 of them have been depublished because they were with Superversive Press, and as I've mentioned, I'm kind of ditching publishers and just doing everything myself now. And there will be a print edition of this, which is good because there's Madison. Need the real book 5. So when this drops on, I've got it up for pre-order for February 13th. When it drops around then, there will be a print edition of this, so that it will be a actual physical version. So that's the nice thing about this. And I've also included a short story which was not published before, except to Patreon subscribers, just to be annoying to people who might try to skip this because they read the novellas. So there's an extra short story in here. It's called Hazing, and it takes place between Guard Training and Spy Training. It's real short. So I mean, if you guys, if you've already bought those, you just message me and I'll send it to you or something like that if you don't want to buy it again. If you do want to buy it again, that's great too, though. And so that's what I'm doing. So I'm getting this in as book 5. It'll be nice because I've actually got all my Amazon ads running and everything like that. And what happens, for those of you who are interested in the Amazon business model, is I run ads on book 1, and usually the ads actually lose money. So there's a ratio of about, I would say 150% of ad spends is the revenue I get. So I get a revenue of $4.99, and my ad spends are about $7.50 per book. And you might ask, how does that make sense? And the answer is it doesn't, unless you have a series. So what happens is people buy book 1, and then they buy book 2, and then they buy book 3, and they buy book 4. So about 50% of the people who buy book 1 move on and buy the rest of the series also, which makes the ads immensely profitable when you look at it from the book perspective of all of them. And I don't advertise for these books at all. It's just people will just continue on from book 1 because it wouldn't make sense otherwise. And it's usually about 50% go to book 2, and then after, if people have read through book 2, it's 90% from there on. And this is true across almost every series out there. If anybody who's on a professional level, that's about the read through rate for the series. So the more books you get into the series, the better it ends up doing. And here, this will be book 5. And hopefully this year, I will also write the sequel to The Iron Wedding, which will be called Attack of the Nightmen, and that will be book 6. So that's going to be the plan on that front. I'm doing a ton, if you guys haven't noticed. I'm really blitzing the content game even harder this year, believe it or not, than I was even going to do last year. And actually, let me drop the link to the Steam Night in the chat real quick. All right. Okay. So that is the Steam Night element of this. Welcome, and please hit the like button and all that, because of course it gets people going. Wouldn't writing standalone novels be more profitable, is a question I get. No, the Amazon readership is really into series. So if you put one book out, people are typically hesitant to read it. For whatever reason, the readership base really likes at least trilogies. And so what happens is actually, I've released 3 trilogies, I guess, worth of books now. If you count the Steam Night and how that went. And I have a single standalone book, which is The Stars Entwined, this one here. And what I found is I never released sequels to this, which this is not going to be standalone for much longer, just so you know. And it really sold a lot less than my steampunk books. And I thought, this is very weird. Why would this be the case when I have a space opera book? And space opera is a much bigger genre than steampunk. There we go. Okay, this is a book that should appeal to a broader audience. And so when I released for Steam and Country, I thought, that book's really not going to do that great, and because steampunk's kind of past its prime, I guess, as a genre. And I'm just going to wait until I get my space opera here cleaned up, and that one's going to take off, and then I'll write a series of that, was the thought. What happened was my steampunk book sold nutty off the charts, which I didn't expect. And this one didn't sell so great. So I actually changed course and wrote my steampunk sequels faster. And what I found is actually when I got my 3rd book out, it compounded the sales of book 1 again by almost double. And I got an almost new release for book 1. And so people saw that there was a trilogy. So more people came in and bought it and checked it out at that point. And Justified, when I put that up, of course, you guys are probably familiar with Justified De La Rose. You got to look up Justified De La Rose, because if you look up just Justified, it comes up with a TV show. So Justified, I learned from that experience, and I wrote all 3 books prior to coming out with them. And when book 3 came out, again, I got this giant boost where a zillion people were reading book 1, and it acted like a new release date for book 1. It was pretty cool. So the trilogy really is where it's at, and you release them within a month of each other, and it really keeps sales going. Justified is clocking still, so I'm pretty happy with how that one's gone. But The Stars Entwined really didn't do all that great, and I think part of it is because of the series model. And I wasn't advertising that there was going to be a series or extra books or anything like that, because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. So yes, standalone novels, while it seems like they'd be more profitable because people tend to buy book 1s more often, when you put out your book 2 and book 3, more people go back and buy that book 1. So no, it's not more profitable to do standalone novels at all. Everybody really wants the series, and the market really is in it for series. So that's my main goal right now, is to make sure everything just flows nicely into series at this point of at least 3 books, maybe even more, so that we can keep that a thing. All right. Will the sequel be called The Stars Entangled? No, the sequel is going to be called The Stars Asunder, because I thought that was a cool word. Asunder is a nice word. See, I'm finding all these cool words like entwined, asunder, just because they're words that are typically you don't see. And so my hope is that it will make the book titles more memorable and help last over time. I don't know. That's just my thought. Could be wrong. So that's my book front right now. So I've got the sequel to this written. I've also got a I shouldn't call it a prequel. It's not a prequel. Um, I've got a overlapping book. It's not a prequel. Called Colony Launch. So when book 2 comes out of this, it will look like there's a trilogy out. So I've got Colony Launch, which I've got a big interstellar war going on in the stars entwined between this giant Aritian empire, who are the alien people, and then the humans, and it's spanning the entire galaxy, right? Everybody's fighting everywhere, and so this conflict in the stars entwined really just takes place aboard one starship in it, and so you only get it from you only get it from like one minor. Well, there's 3 perspectives in the book, but they're all in this like tight area. But I wanted to give a bigger sense of scope of it. So what I did instead of writing a sequel to The Stars Entwined was I was writing another standalone novel at the time. Sorry, I was laughing at the chat. This conversation is much more civil than a video I saw earlier with the same title. I know. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to just have a little fun. The Stars Scrambled also sounds nice. Would the Stars Scrambled be over easy, over medium, or over hard is the question. Okay, back to Colony Launch. Colony Launch is really the next novel I'm going to come out with. It's at my editor right now. Let's see. And it overlaps with the Stars Entwined. And it takes place in 4 different areas. It takes place on a colony that's getting attacked by the Oritians. It takes place on Earth, I guess 2 different places on Earth. So one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast. And then it takes place on a prison colony. And then it ends up at a different world within the Earth borders. So you get to see a vast sort of bigger picture of the world, which is what I wanted to offer here. And a bigger picture of human life in this world. So that's what that's meant to do. Now, what I'm going to do with that, and how I'm going to make this a sort of a trilogy, is I'm going to put Colony Launch as a standalone, hopefully so people check it out. And then at the end of the book, I'm going to put a page that says, hey, if you like this, the Aritian War continues in the Stars Entwined. So hopefully people who are checking out Colony Launch as a new release will then go in and go, oh, the Stars Entwined is the next logical book in there. And then the month after I release Colony Launch, I'm going to release the Stars Asunder. So you'll get a trilogy effect, I hope. This is unexplored territory from all 3 of them that way. So that's going to be the business plan of that launch, of the Colony Launch. Cool. So that's that. What else am I working on? I've got comics too, right? The other big business model plan thing I'm doing is, you see, I have put Flying Sparks out as a single issue. Now, I did this last year. For those who aren't familiar, Flying Sparks is my kind of main comic book series. It's had 3 successful crowdfunds and has made over $60,000 in crowdfunding at this point for the series. And I also released the full graphic novels. So if you look up Flying Sparks, Della Rose, if you missed the crowdfunds, the easiest way to actually get them, you can order them direct from me too. But the first 2 volumes are actually up on Amazon. You can just buy them on Amazon. There's volume 1, and you see I've got my issues out now. There's volume 2 right here. Volume 3 I don't have up yet. I'll have it out once I'm sure that all the backers have their books. But the other way I'm doing it is I'm re-releasing these as single issues. And I started with issue 1, and I did this at the very end of November. And I put it as Kindle for $2.99. And the reason I have that price point there is I want people to be able to check out the book as like an impulse buy sort of thing. And so I put the first book at $2.99. All the books will be $2.99. They'll come out monthly this way. And each volume of the graphic novel is 3 issues. So right now we're 9 issues into it. And this is the first issue. So if you are, strapped for cash or whatever, can't
do a $25 crowdfund for the physical paperback or whatever, you can just check this out and kind of catch up as it rolls along, is the thought about this. It's a way to get more people invested in the series in the long run, and for them to check it out. And I also have a paperback version because I know people like their paperback comic books. It seems a little expensive at $7, and there's a reason for that, because these are completely print on demand. And so Amazon takes its cut, the printer takes its cut, and I get about $1 per book out of the paperback. It's kind of crappy. So I actually prefer the Kindle, or I prefer you to buy the graphic novel, or I prefer you to buy it direct from me rather than the paperbacks here. But if you like to collect everything, go for it too. But I have the option. I want everybody to have every option to be able to buy and read these things in any manner in which they like. And so I've got that, and I've got issue 2. I just put up yesterday in this format. I've got it in Kindle. I do not have the paper version yet. We're going to be a ways out on the paper version, and hopefully I'll have issue 3 out kind of towards the end of the month also. And I'm going to do the same thing I do with my normal books with this, is I'm going to be running Amazon ads, advertising, in order to get people to check these out. Here's the issue 2. I should put that link in the chat too. By the way, since you guys have read these, you have technically, most of you probably read Flying Sparks. These issues are all in volume 1. So you are eligible, because you have read the books, to review them on Amazon. Please leave Amazon reviews on these, because what happens is when I run ads, the social proof really helps, especially on the issue number 1. I want to get this up to 25 reviews as quickly as possible. I'll put this in the chat too. And that way it'll help me have better ads for people. All right. Sell me on Flying Sparks. I've been interested in it for a little while. This is your classic superhero story. So I really have been disillusioned with the way Marvel and DC Comics have gone in the last, I guess, 10, more than that now, probably 25 years. Everything's like this big epic event, all these crossovers, nothing develops, everything gets retconned, your characters go away. What happened was I got really mad because they had a Batgirl comic book starring a character named Stephanie Brown, who my pal Chuck Dixon created. And they just retconned it out of existence with the New 52. So I'm like, look, all these stories in these comic mediums with these superheroes, they don't develop the characters anymore at all. They just put them out. The run ends. The next writer just does whatever he wants, and it doesn't even have to make sense. They can magic everything out of existence, and it's just not fun anymore. So I wanted to have a storyline where the characters actually develop, like you used to see in like the 70s and 80s with comics, like Chris Claremont would do, or Tom DeFalco would do with his books. And the characters, they are in college, they grow, the next semester is the next semester. They have their relationships, the relationships grow. Their friends grow. People who die actually die. Things like that. Actually, they didn't just have these sweeping events that reset the world back then. And so I wanted to give a little flavor of that kind of storytelling, where every issue has its own story. Every issue is compounding and building towards a larger story at the same time. If you're reading like, I'll go back to Claremont's X-Men, because I just read the first 20 issues of it. If you read Claremont's X-Men, the storylines with Jean Grey and the Phoenix and all that, and with like the Starjammers and the Xavier would have dreams 10 issues prior that the dreams would get worse and worse and worse, and suddenly we'd get into the storyline. Well, that's what I wanted to happen here. And in the first issue, I set it up this way where I just it looks like it's this throwaway issue introducing the characters. And I put in this little alien Ruby in the background. And it turns out that this thing really just sets into motion this thing that spirals an awesome, epic, world shattering plot, just like you'd get out of Claremont. So I wanted that. But I also like a second thing about comics, like Spider-Man or Batgirl. The street level crime fighting makes me happy too. I wanted that in there, so I added a mob bit in there because I wanted mob elements in the book, and I really enjoyed the Batman and Spider-Man 80s books where they're fighting against the mafia and things like that. So I wanted that in there. I threw that element in there. And then 3, I wanted really intense personal relationships, because the other thing that really gets me going in comics is like, you know, Spider-Man and Mary Jane and their relationship and like the ups and downs and their struggles and things like that. And I loved watching them grow for a long time, get married, stay married, have marital struggles. It even got to a point where they had a baby. Like things were developing, and you know, and of course, then they retconned and ruined that, just like everything else. So I really wanted the relationship to be first and foremost and forefront of that, and so that's where the Flying Sparks comes in, both as a title and as a theme. Is obviously sparks are flying in the relationship. She flies, and he shoots sparks out of his hands. So there's lots of double entendres in there, and the cool relationship element is a big part of that. So those are the what is the content rating? Content rating, I don't know. My kid, who is 11, read the first volume when he was 9, and I thought that was a little. I don't know. I thought 9. I felt like it was maybe a little violent, but it's nothing you wouldn't see in a Marvel or DC movie. So, you know, I mean, at 10 or 11, most kids are probably pretty fine with it. I don't have any swearing in it, I don't think. It, you know, there's no nudity or anything like that. So, so that's that. No, I hated One More Day. One More Day ruined comics for me. Destroying the Spider Marriage is, again, an onus of me wanting to do a personal relationship with a superhero, one that actually matters and one that doesn't get washed away. So that is a big portion of why Flying Sparks exists also. So if you like those old style storytelling, the classic style storytelling, I shouldn't call it old, I should call it classic. This is the book for you. This is classic superhero storytelling. I'm bringing it back, and I'm doing it right. And that's going to be Flying Sparks, and it's also going to be Dynamite, Thor, and the Cosmic Warrior when those come out too. Yeah, so that's the story there. Now, the next comic thing I've been hyping over the last couple of days, you guys might have noticed, is Clockwork Dancer. And this is a 4-issue series. I'm trying to branch out from superheroes also. So I want to, I have obviously a large content strategy where I have a lot of content. I have YouTube, I have reviews, I have YouTube writing videos, I have my streams and all that. And I try to do a lot of different content to appeal to a lot of different people. And that's why I have sci-fi books. That's why I have steampunk books. I'm going to have fantasy books shortly this year. I'll announce that later. And so it's a little something for everybody. And I'm hoping that people who see the storytelling and see the quality of storytelling will then kind of hop over and check out the other genres and things like that too. So with comics, honestly, the worst thing an indie guy can do is do superheroes. Superheroes are a saturated market because Marvel and DC flood the stands with their books that don't matter, with characters that don't develop, that I'm mad about. But you know, you do need an alternative to that in superheroes. So I did want to push that, and I still want to push that. But a lot of people who read indies and don't read Marvel and DC then hate superheroes. I dealt with this recently when I was talking with let me see if I can get him on. It's SWC shitty web comics or whatever. Streaming if you're bored. Let's see if he wants to come on. But I found that he hates superheroes. And so I made him read my superhero book anyway, and he of course hated it because he hates superheroes. So I need to branch out my comics lines into non-superhero books also. And so I've got a few ideas in the works for that. And the first of which that you're going to see is Clockwork Dancer. Now, Clockwork Dancer has been in the works for a little over a year. There is a Jon Mollison says trad comics for the win. This is very interesting. So the woman who draws this is a very much a trad wife woman. She lives on a farm and out in the middle of nowhere. Very, very wonderful. She's Catholic, wonderful woman, and just happened to be a fan of mine because, you know, we have a lot of the same values. And so we just got to talking and decided to make a book together. And it took some time. And usually what happens with collaborations like that is I find that artists end up being very flaky and don't get things done. And because she was taking so long, of course, because she has her life and all that, I wasn't sure this was going to get done either. And sure enough, it finally got done. Issue 2 is she's got it pretty much mapped out right now. I'm not gonna be able to get her to come out monthly. We're not gonna be able to operate at that pace with her, but it's working out really well, and I love her art. So so we have that. And Clockwork Dancer, I figured the best thing for me to go into after superheroes would be to go into steampunk, because I already have a steampunk audience from my novels. And so I figured at that point, I'm going to send the link to a few people and just see if anybody wants to join. I hate talking by myself. I think it's obscenely boring for me. All right. So I figured steampunk would be the way to go. And I mentioned, I don't know if you guys watched my video on research and writing earlier. But what I did is, because I already had a steampunk fantasy world, I decided to go and make a steampunk in the real world. So this is an alternate history steampunk deal. And I did a lot of research into this book to research what was going on in 1890 to 1898, so that I could really get a good flavor for world events, get a good flavor for just things that were going on. I pushed the tech a little bit forward. And as you see with the robot automaton and the phonograph, I mean, we were just at the very beginning of phonographs at this point. So I pushed it a little forward. But I wanted to make sure I had a good steampunk setting, and I want to make sure I had a realistic alternate history. So it starts off at this inventor. So this guy, it's like James Bond in steampunk, but with the Bond girl being like a badass clockwork automaton who can just F anything up. So that is yes, it's a robot waifu. Do you guys want a body pillow of the Clockwork Dancer? Let me know if you do. I can make that happen. So definitely, yes, she's a robot waifu in a lot of ways. Also, his creation, his pride and joy, very wholesome. I don't get into anything degenerate in this book, so don't worry about that. Yeah, it's like I mentioned the James Bond element. So I started with a concept because I looked that up, and I looked up MI6, and I was like, when did MI6 start, and how did that all work out? And I found out that before MI6, there was actually Queen Victoria's Secret Service, and Queen Victoria's Secret Service was their special ops in England at the time. And so I found that super intriguing. And so our guy here, his name's Alistair, and Alistair is a retired member of Queen Victoria's Secret Service. He actually retired. You'll find out why he retired and how the clockwork inventions and all that came into place. And he's forced kind of back into service because of situations that surround him. And the fact that this clockwork automaton exists really upsets the hierarchy of England once they find out about her. And they view her as an abomination against God, because like, who are we as humans to be able to create something in the image of God is the thought process there. And I actually, I mentioned Catholicism. The Church of England, the Anglican Church, is actually very prevalent in this, not the Catholic Church, just because of the setting. But they're very similar histories and dogmas and all that. And so that's where this starts. We open up with just the Clockwork Dancer dancing, because that's what she's programmed to do. That's her deal. And then Alistair gets a visit from the Secret Service. And so there's your kind of 2-page. What's going on with these pages? They're not loading. Did it just not load it? Hopefully that's not a general problem with this. This would be nobody's told me it has, though. Anyway, I sent this out to Patreon supporters. they've read it. All you get is a 2-page preview here, and it gets way more interesting from there. I've set up a really cool chase kind of around Europe, and a bigger plot that unfolds from this also. So it's going to be 4 issues long overall. I'm going to release them all directly to Amazon and do it that way to make it easier. But of course, Patreon subscribers will be getting the first look at these as they come out. And that is my comic civil discussion right now. So we have that. So let's see. We've got Flying Sparks. Everybody's gotten volume 3. At least people are starting to get it. Clockwork Dancer's coming out soon for most people, and some people already have it. Did anybody read it? Anybody in the chat read Clockwork Dancer #1 yet? I don't know. Let me know if you have. And what else? I've got Flying Sparks 4 already almost all the way drawn. It is all the way drawn. What am I talking about? Flying Sparks 4 is drawn and penciled and inked. And I actually got pencils of the cover the other day, and I'll put that up here too once I find it. Where'd it go? There it is. I got a pencil sketch of the cover for Flying Sparks Volume 4, which I've leveled up on my artist again. There we are. Drake says he's read part of it already. It's good. Thank you, Drake. And here is the cover reveal, I guess. Patreon people have seen this already, of what will be the Flying Sparks Volume 4 cover. The art is by James Pascoe. James Pascoe was an artist. I mentioned Batman from before, and he did Azrael, Agent of the Bat, for several issues back in the 90s. And I met him at a convention 2 or 3 months ago, last month. I don't remember what it was. Hit it off with him really good. Love the guy, and just love his ability to draw too. And so this is going to be what the cover looks like. He drew excellent cityscape, very heroic pose. I like dynamic heroism, which you used to get in the late 80s and all that. And this is exactly what you get out of that. And so I'm very happy with how that's going to go. And Dynamite Thor. I guess Dynamite Thor is going to be the next crowdfund, not this. So I probably shouldn't be hyping this. But since you read Volume 3, or you have Volume 3, that's why I'm hyping this. Dynamite Thor is going to be my other superhero for folk who are new here. I think most of you already know kind of the Dynamite Thor's deal. And it's going to be coming out probably February, March on Kickstarter. This is done. So I have completed 100% of this. I have not done the cover reveal yet. The cover reveal is going to just blow your socks off. And I'm not going to do it yet. I'm waiting for the colors on that, because I've got the lines. I've been very tight-lipped about it. I'm so excited. You guys have no idea. Dynamite Thor is a public domain superhero from the 1950s. He came from Weird Comics, which was a short-lived anthology comic, and appeared first in Weird Comics #6. Went through Weird Comics #8, and then he was also in Blue Beetle #6 and 7 as a backup feature. And it was just a ridiculous character that he is immune to explosives, and so he just chucks sticks of dynamite at people. And he also chucks sticks of dynamite behind him and uses the propulsion from the blast to push him into the air so he flies. It's utterly absurd and a really silly thing. And I basically reimagined this character as his grandson, who inherits the powers and ends up as a no-bid contractor in Iraq. And so that's Dynamite Thor. We've got 2 issues of this because the artist could not commit to a 3rd issue, which is unfortunate. I'm working on a crossover issue with another comic artist with his own superhero, which is going to address one of the personal plot points that I wanted to be in that 3rd issue. So if we decide to then go at it again, I can get a different artist and start from a new starting point is the thought. We'll see how that goes. But 2 issues of this. I also have a Young Dynamite Thor, I think it's a 4-page or 6-page featurette, which will add to the book as a stretch goal, which just is kind of like a backup of when he's a kid. And then The other cool part about this is we're going through the old 1950s Dynamite Thor books, and we are restoring those. So the Kickstarter is going to pay for the art for this, and it's also going to pay for the art for the restoration of the original books. And this actually really excites me. I mean, this might be a little nerdy, and I'm sorry about that. Let me show you some of the restoration we're doing and what it looks like. So these old panels, I mean, they're printed really poorly, and the colors bleed a little bit, and they just like they're not that great. And of course, they're on old faded papers. The only way we got them. That's the only scans we have of this stuff. So we were just cleaning everything up and just making it into a nice, fancy, modern-looking thing right here. So our Kickstarter is going to have a two-tiered option, which you can get. You can get the modern Dynamite Thor book, which is just going to be my new content, and then at the higher level, you know, a lot of these guys do ash cans or whatever. You're going to be able to get all of Dynamite Thor's old early stuff in its own book, along with my books. You'll have the Dynamite Thor Classic plus Dynamite Thor Reimagined at the higher tier, and then for the hardcover version, and I wasn't going to be able to have a hardcover, which annoyed me before, because I love putting out hardcovers. Hardcover versions, I'll just have both books combined into one book. So that's how we're going to do the Kickstarter. It's going to be awesome. And yeah, I'm super jazzed for this. Look at the contrast though, just of like the bright dynamic colors. And I got inspired to do this because I was looking for the book here, but it's actually under my computer. So I'm going to show you what Marvel has been doing, which I'm copying. I'll take good things. Dynamite Thor body pillows. If Drake wants a Dynamite Thor body pillow, then we can get one. I don't know though. All right, so let me show you what inspired me. This is it's called the Timely's Greatest Marvel Omnibus, The Human Torch, and this is the Human Torch stories from the 1930s and 1940s. It's not Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four, and they actually did this. They went through and they did the exact same coloring process where they recolored it and got it. I don't know if you can see that very well, and just like made it really sharp on the paper, so that you have a very nice reading experience with these old comics. And so this is what inspired me to do Dynamite Sport. And I just looked into it, and at first looked into the legality of this. And since it is public domain, you actually can do anything you want. I could republish it from scratch just the way it is. I think that'd be pretty cheesy to do though. And so we're gonna make it nice, just like these Timely's Greatest Omnibuses. And that is I'm very excited about that. I love this, and I like the prospect. When I came up with that idea, I was like, wow. I mean, it's cool that I'm redoing these old characters, and that's fun as a thing. But I also really like the idea of preserving these lost comics. And so, if this is successful and people like it, then we'll do more of it. And that's just, you know, we're trying a little of everything and seeing how it goes. Yeah. So that is where we're at right now. I think that's everything. That's our civil discussion. So, all right. Dave and I were doing some of this with old RPG stuff. Really love the restoration project. Cool. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. I really want to do more of this old stuff, and just see how it goes. So that's everything for right now. Of course, I'm writing other things too, and they're all just in different processes. So I hope you guys will check everything out. Do you have any questions? I will answer anything to my best of my abilities. I smell that my wife has made the chicken it smells like, so I kind of want to go eat. But I'm happy to answer questions on anything, I guess. Ask me anything if you're still here. What am I reading? What am I reading right now? What I'm reading right now, this is my question for myself. Nobody asked this. What I'm reading right now is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Shattered Grid. And it is the third deluxe edition Power Rangers. If you watch my reviews, you know I've read the first two. And so this will be the last one of these that are out for now. Maybe they'll do another one, I don't know. Interesting. Very different than the first two. This is actually a crossover between two different Power Rangers series, and it's like a going through time and combining all the power. I never watched past the first Power Rangers, I guess. And so they have these like Power Rangers in space and Dino Power Rangers and Samurai Power Rangers or something like that. And I had never watched those, and so they're in this. And so there's a lot of characters I don't know, which makes it a little harder for me to read. And then they're crossing over two series, which would like one of the Power Ranger series takes place before there was a Green Ranger, and then one after. And they had two different writers on these series, and so it's kind of a weird experience, but it is building towards something. I'll do a full review of that once I got that going. And that's what I'm reading right now. I'm also in the middle of James Bond Moonraker. I read prose very slowly because I just don't have a ton of time to read. Let's see. Thoughts on the Witcher series. I have not seen the Witcher series yet. I'm going to be watching it in the next few days here. We've been on vacation, which is why I haven't been streaming much. So we have been sharing a room with my two little children, and I don't think the Witcher series is appropriate for two little children, so we didn't get to watch it yet. I stopped doing reviews of The Mandalorian. I really should have followed up on all of those episodes. I did finish that, and it was great. So very happy with that. Witcher cannot be. Let's see. How far into books were you that made you decide to be a writer? It's a great question. I started my writing process like when I was in high school, when I was 18. And there's a couple events that made me very excited about it. One, I had a creative writing assignment, and I was like, okay, this is cool. And I enjoyed doing it. And actually, that Stars Entwined is the fruition of that. So I started writing a thing that was way bigger than I could have done in that class, and it was a real full novel worth. And it was a Star Trek fan fiction, and it was very different than what the story ended up being. But that eventually morphed into that over the years as I kept trying to rewrite it and learned how to do it. So it was kind of back then when I was 18, but I wasn't serious about it. Like I would write like 2 or 3 pages every couple months and come back. And then the other thing that got me was another assignment. I had to do an interview assignment when I was 18, and I wrote to Anne McCaffrey, who's one of the biggest sci-fi writers of all time. And she wrote me back and was super nice about everything, super communicative, just super nice to me. And I was like, wow, that's cool. So I got really into Anne McCaffrey, and I'm like, I want to do things like her. And that's also what got me into it. So those spiraled, and what ended up happening was I liked to role play online a lot. So I would go into role play chat rooms, and I'd do Deadlands, or I had Deadlands role playing. I had Legend of the Five Rings, it's a samurai based game role playing. I had Star Trek role playing, of course, because I was big into that. Star Wars role playing, and we did New World of Darkness. I ran Hunter for a while, and so as I was kind of writing that book over the years, what I told myself and everybody else was that I lost my train of thought. Sorry. What I told myself was that I was training myself to write better stories by coming up with RPG scenarios to run for players in the chat. And so I eventually like kind of progressed more away from playing characters as much as I can, because I get frustrated with GMs and be like, I want the story to go this way, and the GMs just definitely would not accommodate me. And so I'm like, F it, I'll just GM myself. And so I'd just be making up my stories for different people all the time. And I was like, this is writing training. I spent hours and hours just role playing. And I don't know if maybe it helped, but I wish I would have written books to sell during that time instead, because it would have gone better. And eventually that came on, and I finished my Stars Entwined first novel like 2012, like the first draft of it, and then set it aside for a couple of years. Decided at that point, that's when they canceled the Stephanie Brown series, and I got excited and started writing my own comics to be a counter to Marvel and DC's lack of continuity and lack of character progressions. So I started writing Flying Sparks then. And then I found out that comics were very expensive to make. And so I got out of writing comics again. And then I actually went and wrote background flavor for games for a bit. I worked for the Deadlands property and for a couple smaller RPG companies. And then Star Realms, the card game, hired me to write a novel based on their system. And that's my kind of novel writing journey story. And then once I got kind of big on that, then the comics thing happened, and I decided to revisit comics again. And suddenly, now that I have an audience, I can sell books that will actually pay for artists, so I can keep doing it. It's fun. Any update on the alt hero novel? Nope, I have no idea. I so far out of that process at this point, I just don't know what's going on with it, sadly. I'm done. I finished it. So that's all I know. And that's it. Cool. So thanks, guys. This was a civil discussion with Jon. If you haven't checked out my books, I hope you will. I'm pretty available for questions if you guys are interested in a specific thing. My steampunk novels are very good action. My Justified series is even bigger action. So if you like Justified's their like strong male lead, like really tearing things up. So if you want that, go to Justified. If you like the steampunk aesthetic, definitely go to my For Steam and Country book. If you want a sort of a headier, sprawling space opera that's going to really open up into a really big world, Stars and Twine's your spot. Comic book wise, I've got my my tried and true superhero adventure with Flying Sparks. And Clockwork Dancer will be coming out soon on the steampunk front on that. So that's everything. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to talk about any of the like gossipy stuff because I just don't have fun with that. And I hope that this is more fun than that. And I hope you guys will be back soon. If you guys want me to cover a topic or anything like on comic writing, or book writing, or if you want me to review something, like I pretty much just like read what I feel like this Human Torch or whatever. I'm reading this slowly because these old Golden Age ones are they don't tie, none of the stories tie together or anything like that. So I read like one a night, and I'll eventually review it. Once I'm done with it. This all probably wrap up tonight. If there's like something you want me to switch to, I have all the Marvel Epic collections. I really love those. So I can switch my reading orders around if you like really want me to review something or whatnot. I very sparingly do modern books for a couple reasons. Is one, I know a lot of the writers and artists and all that, and I don't want to give people butt hurt. And number two, I don't like to read modern stuff quite as much. So there's that. How many words did I write in 2019? I don't know. Go. I wrote. I know novel. The question is like I don't track them because a lot of authors just write novels, so it's easy to be like I wrote 4 novels. They were 60,000 words each, and blah blah blah. But like my comic book scripts vary so big in how many words they are. I really don't know. And I wrote a lot of comic scripts in 2019. I wrote all of Flying Sparks Volume 4. So three issues, Clockwork Dancer, Dynamite, Thor 1 and 2. What else did I write? Part of the Ember War. I think 2 issues of the Ember War were in there. I wrote at least. I probably had to write at least 15 comic scripts in 2019. I don't know what the average are. Maybe they're 4,000 words each, times call it 15. So that's maybe 60,000. I write a short story every month for my Patreon people, and those usually end up like probably around 3,500 words. So that's another 40,000. So that's 100,000. I wrote Von Monocle 4. I wrote Spy Training. I wrote The Stars Asunder. I wrote half of another novel. I think I wrote Glorified this year too. I don't know. So I think that puts me at about 500,000 words. I mean, that's maybe not Pulp speed. I know people are writing 1 million words in a year, but I'm probably around there, probably around 500,000 words. Sounds about right. That's that. Let's see. Edwin says he's cooking dinner. He'll pop in briefly if he can. I don't know that I'll still be on because I should be eating dinner. Looks like, when did he say that? He said that 6:44. That's 6 minutes ago. I'll wait a couple minutes, see if Edwin's going to come on. If Edwin comes on, this will be a lot of fun. I don't know. I think I wrote 500,000-ish words in 2019. That sounds about right. I do got to write faster. Unfortunately, I got a job too and kids. So until such day that I don't have those things, then I'm not going to write faster, unfortunately. And what's interesting is I'm doing things now like lettering my own comic books. So it's taking up some writing time. And I actually like doing that. And I think it's a useful thing, not just from a perspective of like saving costs, which it is useful to save costs, of course. But it's also useful on a level of just like I get to edit the dialogue like as I'm lettering, and I get more control over the comic, which I really like. So there's that. I'm actually going to show you what I'm going to start lettering next, because this will be pretty fun. The other thing, oh yeah, I forgot I do all these short comics too. I have short comics now that I'm putting that I am putting out to Patreon subscribers only, and they get the benefits of that just because I just try to put all my money back into comic art or things that are going to be doing this. And let's see. And let me save this real quick and then get rid of, I have a template. So what I'm doing is I'm getting rid of the dialogue from the Clock Dancer. And then I will be putting in the art and stuff for the new book, which I'm going to show you. It's not a new book. It's going to be a new short story. And linked file. Import options. Yeah, I don't know. There we go. That looks pretty good. So I'll save that there, and then I'll pull this up. And here we go. Here's my here's my new short comic I'm going to be putting out for Patreon subscribers. It's a samurai-based fiction, obviously going to be about a duel, and it's 8 pages long. So as soon as I get this letter, this will be out to the Patreon subscribers, and that's the only way I'm doing short comics for right now, because that's the only way to do short comics, I think. So yeah, that's the other part of what I'm working on now is I'm doing all these formatting and business stuff that's getting up faster. So I don't know, maybe I'll end up writing more words in 2020. We'll see what happens. So, all right, I think we're not going to be able to get Edwin in here in a timely fashion. So I probably will wrap things up and go eat dinner real quick. But that's my my progress update. I like doing these progress updates. I think they're kind of fun. I have a lot of stuff going on. Oh yeah, the other thing we've got going, I forgot. Jon Mollison is going to be doing. I wrote audio dramas which tie into Flying Sparks, and they are back. They're like backstories. Jon Mollison's going to be doing one of the voices for that. John's got the best freaking voice of all. Do you want to come on? Hold on, real quick. Just give people your voice. I'm going to put the link in the Pulp Rev chat. I want people to hear your voice, so they can get hype. So hopefully they'll get hype. I don't know if he's actually going to come on. We'll see. He's in the chat, so he'd better. Oh, he's got a great voice. We'll see how long it takes him to get set up. And I'm getting so hungry, guys. So hungry. We'll see. I know I'm leaving dead air right now. I ran out of things to talk about, so that's the deal. I love this. This guy's art's so good. He's got a very classic style art. Also, his name's Pert Badillo or something like that. And I'm trying to get him to do another short story for me, which is a futuristic cop story. But he is currently on vacation, so I don't know when or if that's going to happen. But I've got it. I've got the script out to him, so we'll see how it goes. But I enjoyed this. Yeah, I've got a lot of concepts coming up and a lot of stories I want to do. So we'll see how it goes. Did Jon respond? Jon did not respond. Maybe he left. He did say great. He said great episode tonight. He might have logged off. Oh well. I might be at the end of my rope here, or maybe he's trying to set up StreamYard. I have no idea. Nobody's communicating. Oh well. All right. Well, that was fun. I'll try to get Jon M on at some point, and so you can hear his lovely voice. He's been on before. If you want to search things, but it's very fun. And I've got a few actors lined up. I don't have everybody I need just yet because I put in a little too many characters, maybe. And we'll see how that goes. We will see how that goes. And if people like it. All right. I'm going to eat now. I feel like my wife is probably waiting for me downstairs. So never mind on the people I invited. And I hope you guys had fun. Let's rock this in 2020. I'll be back. Tim Lim and I are going to talk soon. We had a discussion on the phone today about like the classic cartooning style of comics and just like how it was so good and really how the 90s changed that. And I don't think it's for the better. I think the classic cartooning style is really underrated in current culture, and the way that modern comics are drawn and expected to be are really a disservice to the medium. So we both want to discuss that. So we'll probably talk about that pretty soon, maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday, whenever we can get our schedules working together. So stay tuned for that. Like, subscribe, check out the books, and thank you guys for being there. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys soon.